Hey everybody, failed entrepreneur back again. Crappy videos every day, so subscribe so you don't miss one. And a couple weeks ago, before things went off the rails, I had made a video about Joe Biden and can Joe Biden survive and make it to the 2020 election. And today it just seems fitting to make one about Trump. So it's Trump's turn today. Can Donald Trump survive and make it to the 2020 election? And right now, does not look very good. Trump, I think most people would probably agree he had a very good chance of maybe even just coasting into this next election. Just rewind things a month ago. Joe Biden was just kind of no momentum, stumbling around. Corona really hampered Joe Biden's ability to go out and campaign. On top of that, you had a lot of scandals surrounding Joe Biden with the Me Too movement. Ukraine and his involvement there doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Problem of picking a VP candidate that can appeal to everyone, and the high expectations among his base, and just being old and being Joe Biden, right? So there's a lot of things confronting him, but what a difference a month makes because now a lot of, it seems like polls right now, and I don't put a lot of faith into those. 2016 should have taught us all a lesson. But Biden appears to be ahead in a lot of the polls all around the country, while, surprise, Trump is lagging behind. There was a poll released today that showed Trump at Jimmy Carter levels, I saw, which should be, even though I don't believe in polls, to an extent, that should be a warning sign to everybody. You don't want to be, usually, when it comes to like presidential stuff, at least, you don't want to be mentioned in the same sentence as Jimmy Carter. So Trump's got some major issues here that he's going to have to try and find a way to overcome. Man, where to even start? The two big ones, of course, are the corona pandemic and his response to that. And then, of course, the wave of riots and violence and Black Lives Matter protests that are going around the country as well. I want to be careful in how I say this. So, while Trump is president and the buck stops there, and you know he is very responsible for the country as a whole, and these are nationwide problems, he's not doing very well on either of them. I have made some videos in the past on criticizing Trump's response for Corona, and I think his response to the Black Lives Matter movement here, and I gave him piss poor grades in both aspects. With Corona, he just seemed to kind of be blundering his way through there. I mean, he did some things early on, trying to, and this is maybe the only thing he'll say, is that he tried to stop flights from other countries pretty quickly, while others weren't so much into that. But just since then, the hydrochloroquine fiasco and what that became, his not wanting to wear a mask, conflict within the White House and with Dr. Fauci, it's just a very kind of bungled response. The federal response, everyone's response to Corona has been subpar. States and the local and federal levels, everyone's just mucked this thing up. So Trump got very poor grades there. And then with the Black Lives Matter riots and protests we're seeing here, isn't doing well. The country is tearing itself apart. The president needs to provide leadership and I don't say a moral compass, because Trump probably isn't the best at that, but some kind of sense of normalcy or showing the way through this. And Trump really hasn't. He's done some tweets. Some tweets have backfired on him. He did a photo. Everything he does, it just seems to be demonized here. Now, again, and I've mentioned this before, these are kind of local problems, right? A lot of the blame for what we're seeing here should be falling on the governors and mayors of these states and cities where things are getting out of hand. Not every state is reeling, or cities are reeling as not as many. Not every city or state is reeling like some of them are, and that it's not Trump's fault. Trump isn't in charge of those states, right? So that needs to fall directly on the people there in charge. But because it's such a national thing, it's not his fault, but he's involved. He can't wash his hands from this and say that it's not his problem, it's not his responsibility. But he's not really doing that, or he's not doing it effectively. And so those are two big things. And I think the election is going to be very much a referendum on just those two things. Russia and all that other stuff before. It seems like so long ago. Nothing really came out of it. And it just seems that Trump is, how do I say it? I want to be careful how I say this. It seems like things are finally taking a toll, right? He's got that Teflon Don nickname. Nothing really seems to stick to him. People who don't like Trump will never hesitate to tell you about all his bankruptcies and failed marriages and grabbing women in inappropriate places and all this other stuff, and nothing really seems to stick. But I think in Russia, all that stuff, right? But I think now, how many punches can this guy take? And I think it's starting to take an effect. And it's just, he's getting, again, a lot of this he brings on himself, no doubt. But again, especially with these protests we're seeing, how is Trump responsible for what happened to George Floyd? How is Trump responsible for the Minneapolis Police Department and what they're doing there? As a matter of fact, if you would look again before, Corona hit and the protests, Trump was doing pretty well. I would argue, making inroads into the African American community, making some pretty important reforms with like prison reform, and that was a big thing that he was doing. Unemployment historically low levels for minorities all across the board. The economy was firing on all cylinders, and there are people who will pick and poke holes in that economy, I'm sure, no matter what, but you really can't argue with historically low unemployment. And making inroads into the black community, walk away was a semi-popular hashtag going around in the Democratic community as people were leaving for a lot of reasons, but probably because the grass was kind of looking greener on the other side for some people, and now that's not the case at all. And like I said, I don't want to say he's being thrown on the bus, but he's taking a lot of hits, a lot of shots on this, and that it just might be too much if he overcomes this. I think I mentioned before, I don't think really it's that Biden wins this election. I think it's just that Trump loses, and I don't know what he does. He's only got a couple months left to try and turn things around. Of course, I would hope that we can get behind all the riots, and if we're going to protest, that's fine. Let's make it constructive and let's try and move forward to things. But I think, and this is what I've been trying to kind of say, I think people are so wanting to nail every problem to Trump that I just don't know how he can distance himself, appease everybody, make things right. I just think it's getting to a tipping point now. There's just too many crises. He's not doing very well on answering or solving them, and it might be, what's the expression, like a bridge too far. It's just too much to ask. I think of any president that was getting slammed with all these crises, all of them getting kind of laid at his feet. Again, I don't really see how Trump was responsible for what happened here with George Floyd. Maybe I'm ignorant and I'm not connecting those dots, but I don't even see where those dots exist. That's a local problem, and that's on Minneapolis and that community there. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe, a lot of people are saying that maybe he was responsible. I don't know, but I don't know how he survives. And if the election was today, it would not be very good for Donald Trump. But as we've seen in 2020, things can change drastically on a dime, right? Is that how that goes? So we'll see what happens here. Literally, I'm not going to be surprised by anything that happens here, and I'm not saying it's a shoo-in that he's going to lose, but the rosy chances he was looking at just a couple months ago are long gone and ain't coming back, and it's going to be, I think, a war of attrition this election, and just really be who can limp over the finish line. And either candidate who ends up winning is going to be coming into office from a position of weakness, and it's just unfortunately for the country right now, it's a sad state of affairs that we're in, and I don't see them getting fixed here anytime soon. Biden's going to have a lot of baggage if he comes into office, no doubt, and Trump has been carrying his bags pretty well, notwithstanding his last couple months, but there's just going to be more weights, more things on his shoulders if he does make it back into office. And 4 more years of just escalation and crisis after crisis. I don't know if anybody wants that right now. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but maybe Trump just loses votes because people are tapping out and they're just sick of all the escalation and like I said, the crisis after Mueller in Russia, Corona, George Floyd. I'm sure I've missed a couple others as well before, but it's just I don't want to say stalemate. It's just treading water. It's just not a lot of stuff seems to be getting done. I don't know. It's the country's in a really, really bad spot right now, and as both sides are more than willing, it seems, to do as little as possible to win over voters and to get the country moving again. So it's a sad state of affairs, and a lot of pessimism I can see and feel. And like I said, it's just not. Who knows what the future brings? I doubt it's going to be good. So anyway, just my thoughts. Can Donald Trump survive? I don't know. It's a lot, like I said, on any person's plate, and he very well may not. And if he doesn't, I think it's going to be pretty clear what did him in, and it's these last couple months of 2020. So, or you could just say 2020 in general is what sunk his ship. So, all right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Again, if you agree, disagree, by all means, leave a comment down below, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. Who knows, right? All right, I got things to do. I know you do too. Thanks for watching, Failed Entrepreneur. Catch you later.